Today I'm going to be talking about this Epiphone Dove guitar. Now there's a little bit of backstory. I had no intention of buying a new guitar. I wasn't looking for a new guitar. I didn't particularly want a new guitar. If you've been following my channel or you've seen some of my recent videos, you'll know that I've been downsizing my guitar collection and sold 4 guitars to fund a Les Paul 59 reissue, which I've reviewed and shown on this channel already. And then I got an email one day from Guitar Guitar. Guitar Guitar is the UK's largest guitar shop, and it's where I got that Les Paul from. And just as a quick aside, I get no sponsorship from them whatsoever, but if you're looking for a good guitar shop, I have nothing but glowing reviews for my whole experience with them. Some guitar shops, you get the impression that they don't really want you in there, especially when you're looking at some of the more expensive items. Guitar Guitar was the complete opposite. They just kind of let me have free reign in the shop, pick up whatever I want, plug it in, play it, put it back, whatever I want to do. Customer service was also excellent, including after the sale. If you're having trouble with your guitar shop, then give them a look. But anyway, they sent me an email 2 weeks ago to say they were having a giveaway on Epiphone Les Pauls. Again, I wasn't looking for one, but I thought I'm always open to receive one for free. So I entered this competition for a Les Paul, and in the same email was Epiphone acoustic sale promotion. So I thought I'd just have a look. Anyway, one of the guitars on sale was the Epiphone Dove. Now, the Dove for me is just a beautiful instrument, and actually I first kind of got turned on to it through my wife. She's a huge Tom Petty fan, and if you know Tom Petty, then the Dove was sort of his main writing guitar, the Gibson version. And I had the opportunity at Anderton's a month or so ago to play a real Gibson one, and it was just an exceptional guitar, really lovely sound. They have a 25.5-inch scale length, so they're very bright and snappy. Unlike something more like the J45, that more quintessential Gibson acoustic guitar, but they got a price tag north of £4,000. So for you American watches, it would be even more than £4,000. So obviously it was just something that I played, enjoyed, and left in the shop. So I get this email from Guitar Guitar to say they're doing this sale. Now, it was one of those sales that actually was one of those sales that made you stop and think for a second. So it was originally up for sale for 30 or 40 pounds. I think it's 439, and it was on sale for 299. Just about 140 pound price, which puts it into that price bracket where I thought, actually, that's the cheapest way to get one now. So for me, I'm primarily looking for the aesthetics of this guitar. Like I said, I wasn't looking for a new guitar. I don't need a new guitar. I love the Dove visually, and there's no way that a Gibson one is coming into my life in the near, medium, or probably long-term future. So the Epiphone is my entry into getting that appearance at an affordable price. I thought, actually, a shade under £300, that's worth looking at. So I put my order in, and here it is. So they give you a 2-week window to return it free of charge. So I thought, I'll do that. So I'll start by giving first impressions. So obviously a price difference of 300-ish pounds or 400-ish pounds, depending on where and when you buy it, compared to 4,000 plus pounds for the Gibson version. If you're wondering how close they are, the answer is not very. Gibson to Epiphone. You can't. People will say you can get an Epiphone Les Paul. It's close enough to the Gibson, and there is an argument to be made for that. Once you're in an acoustic world, electric world, and you've got amps and effects and pickups, and you can swap out all the electrics in it, then certainly when you're in a mix, you can get close enough that there are people who don't feel the need to buy the more expensive version. It's not quite the same in the world of acoustics, because suddenly the wood itself is just paramount importance. So it's not a Gibson. It doesn't sound like the Gibson, and if you play a Gibson, fall in love with it, and go and buy the Epiphone because you think it's just a cheaper version, but otherwise identical, you're wrong. And you're going to be disappointed. So you really need to buy the cheaper acoustic guitars on their own merit. Okay, you need to buy it because actually you like that one, not because you like the big brother and you just want the cheaper version, because it doesn't work that way. So the main difference between the Gibson and the Epiphone is the wood choice. The Gibson is solid wood everywhere. This has a solid wood top, and then the back and sides is laminate. Then you get into, I believe the fingerboard on this is Indian laurel. It's quite a nice example of it to look at. And I think on the Gibson it would be rosewood. But aesthetically it looks the same. The other difference on the Dove in particular with the Gibson is the pickguard. So you can see on the Epiphone it's kind of shiny and plasticky. The Gibson, this is a hand carved and then painted pickguard, which, just as an FYI, is interesting because, one, that's going to factor into the price. They're paying someone to hand carve and hand paint that thing, that's going to go into the price. But also, it means it's textured, because on the Gibson this is carved in. So when you play it, and if you ever have your fingers on the pickguard, there's texture under there. Now for me, I find that a little bit distracting. I don't like it. It was the same thing I said when I was reviewing the 59 Les Paul, that when I was trying out different ones, I played some of the aged Murphy Lab ones, and the light aged and the ultra light aged have cracks on the back of the neck, deliberately. But when you're playing it, you can feel all these grooves on the back, under your palm, and I really didn't like it. I find it very distracting, and it's kind of the same thing with the pickguard. Much more forgivable down here. You kind of get used to it, but just something to be aware of maybe. So on the Epiphone, this is completely flat. This is just kind of a, I don't know how they've done it, printed out or whatever. But this is just, plastic. And this is part of the surface, if you like. But then it's got this lovely bridge with two doves on it. And if you can hear rattling, it's electro-acoustic, and it seems, so there's no battery that comes with it, but you can plug a battery in, and this just comes kind of loose, just floating around in there. I assume when I take the strings off it, there's somewhere to mount it, but I haven't done that. but it is electroacoustic and it plugs in here. So visually, is what they call, this version is what they call a violin burst. It's very nice to me. I think it's a really nice kind of vintage looking finish. It's as I said, 25.5-inch scale length with these fret inlays. I really like the style of these. Again, I mean, aesthetically it looks identical to a Gibson Dove. That's what it's supposed to look like. It doesn't sound like one. But if you were to cut off the headstock here so you couldn't see the brand name, people would think it's a Gibson aesthetically. But the thing about the fret inlays I like is Epiphone, on a lot of the models, you know, you're looking at just dots. It's just nice to see more of a, I'm not sure what I'm looking for here, but there's just a different look to them. And I've always liked this style of inlay and having them on the first fret. And you know, it's like I said, I primarily bought this for the aesthetics of the guitar. So these little things that I wouldn't normally pay much attention to if I'm in a guitar shop and trying to find the one. Those little things don't matter as much. But in this case, I'm paying more attention to them. And then in the headstock, we've got Epiphone Dove. 3 aside tuners. This one was made in Indonesia. You can see that on this little tag here. And then first impressions of it, the finish is definitely thicker than the Gibson. The Gibson is nitrocellulose finish, very thin. This one looks thicker. I believe it's a polyurethane finish. Pros and cons to that, I mean, the nitro has a really nice smell, kind of vanilla-y smell. It's thinner, so it's very susceptible if you ding it. You know, it's very susceptible to getting dents and nicks in it. This is a bit more forgiving. It doesn't have a smell. This won't wear as much as nitro, and nothing really. If you're looking for a guitar in this price range, this is what you're looking at. Yeah, you're not going to be getting I can't think of any fully solid body acoustic guitars that you'd be getting at this price range. So that all said, first impressions out of the box, I thought it looks great. You know, that's what I bought it for. So I said the Gibson Nitro finishes have a smell, very sweet vanilla-y smell. This has its own smell, but it's what I would call workshop glue. It's not the nicest smell. So I guess it's sort of around the sound hole and where the neck's in the body, there's just it's not offensive and it's not overpowering, but there was a definite glue smell. It's dissipated now. This has been out of the box for a few days and it's definitely better than it was, and that will go completely, I'm sure, but it's the first guitar I've ever had with that kind of aroma, if I put it kindly. So looking at reviews for this thing, because I did look at some before I got it, and they were kind of mixed, but mostly good. The reviews that were negative all shared two things. One of them was unfair. It's not the Gibson, and I think that's an unfair comment to say, because obviously it's in the region of 10% of the price of a Gibson. Of course, it's not. It's like complaining that I don't know, a 10 grand car isn't a Ferrari. Like, of course it's not. So you have to take it on its own, judge it on its own merit, as I said before. So it's if you read a review that says it doesn't sound like the Gibson, obviously it doesn't. I'd put that review to one side. And more fairly, the negatives that I read were on the tone. Some people said it's quiet, which is weird. I've never really heard that said about acoustic guitars before. I've heard it said certainly that different acoustic guitars have different volumes because of the size, But this is a full dreadnought, square shoulder acoustic guitar. So you'd expect that a guitar of this size to be loud. So I kept hearing these reviews and reading these reviews that it was actually quite quiet, and it wasn't necessarily a deal breaker of a thing. I mean, it's got, you can hear it, and it doesn't need to be plugged in to get any sound out of it. But nonetheless, I kept bumping into these reviews that said this is a quiet guitar. Other than that, reviews were what you kind of expect. Some said, you know, needed some fretwork, doing kind of sharp frets and things like that. So I can only talk for this particular example. I got lucky with this one. I did the order online because I was going away. They shipped it, and I was planning to use the 14-day return window if I wanted to take it back. So I did that, but I always advocate, if you can, go to the shop, play them in person. Ideally play multiple so you can pick your favourite one. But anyway, so impressions of this guitar for me. And I'll start with the volume. I'll start with the build quality. So having read those reviews, I had a look at the frets, and I have to say I'm really impressed with this. If you run your finger along the top and the underside, you can't feel those frets. They're very even. I tuned it, and the intonation's dead on. Doesn't need any work to into it. The action is great. Acoustics can often be higher action, and it is slightly higher than my electrics, but it's very low, comfortably low. Doesn't need any work done to it. It's just, you would think this guitar had just been set up. If I hadn't opened it myself out of the box and unpacked it, I would think, oh, this guitar's it's had the work done to it. It's just in great condition out of the box, which is really nice, because one is, you just want to be able to open them up, unpack them and play them. But also this price range, it's the kind of price range where you have people with more experience playing who get it, but it's also going to be getting the beginners. And the consideration for beginners is they don't know how the guitar is supposed to feel. So if you're just starting out to play and you get this guitar, and Epiphone's got a good brand name, good reputation, you expect it to be a guitar you can rely on. So if you're that person and you take this guitar out of the box and the action's too high and the frets are kind of stabby and the intonation's gone, you may not know that those things are wrong. The guitar's more difficult to play, it fights back, it doesn't stay in tune. You might fall out of love with that guitar before you ever had a chance to properly start learning it. So I think it's a real plus in my eyes that certainly the version of this guitar, I can't speak for all Doves, but this one came out of the box near enough perfect. And from my point of view, that's a really nice, I can just immediately start playing it. It's a nice bonus. But thinking about the people who are just starting out and this might be their first guitar, who don't know what to look for in terms of playability and setup, it means that they have a really kind of comfortable on-ramp into playing guitar. So full credit to Epiphone for that. Now I'll get onto the volume a bit. So I don't know how well this is going to come out in the video. Hopefully it will come out discernibly. So just run through some chords. That's just with fingers. Now I've got a Jazz 3 pick, which isn't typically associated with acoustics, but I'm trying a few out. I've got a Tortex 1.14, as you can see it's well worn. There is no evidence of it being a Dunlop Tortex 1.14, but it is. And I found this guitar opens the, this pick opens the guitar. With this pick, it's there's a real crispness to it. I think that snappy bright tone you associate with a 25.5-inch scale length, that's Fender territory. That tone comes out with this pick. When I use my fingers or the Jazz 3, it's warmer. Now again, I don't know how well that comes through on the microphone, but it's interesting because, well, it's interesting for two reasons. One, when I was just playing with it, finger picking, I thought, it's kind of quiet, it's kind of warm. That's not a bad thing, but it's not necessarily what you always want, especially when you're buying this scale length. You know, with this scale length being renowned for brightness and snappiness, when you have a guitar that's not that, you do kind of wonder, okay, do I want to keep it? So picking up that plectrum and playing it and hearing just it come to life was great. And the other nice thing about that is it means suddenly this guitar's more versatile, because if I want a guitar that's warm and quiet is good too. You know, if you're in a playing somewhere where you need to be conscious of volume, certainly practicing at home. I'm not saying it wouldn't wake family members if you were playing in the same room. Of course it would, but it is pretty quiet. Played with fingers or certain plectrums, certainly this one. That's quite nice. You don't always want to be overpowering, and sometimes you want a mellower tone. So okay, I can reach through this guitar when I want the mellower tone. But then there might be a song you in the same set and you want a brighter tone. Pick up this, you have a brighter tone. And loud too. I mean, I'll do it again. I mean, it's responsive to the dynamics, so you play quite quiet, quite gently. You can hear that back to back, I think. So if I do fingers, and then pick is a bit brighter. Like I said, dynamics. And there's a lovely tone. I mean, you can hear it. So play this with open string on the top E. Very comfortable, finger picking chords, very comfortable, lovely tone to it. These are still the strings it came with. Normally the first thing I do with a new guitar is change the strings, but this was out of the box. No one else has played it before me. It wasn't in the shop, it wasn't on the wall, so I thought I'll leave them on for the time being. There's a nice neck profile to this for me. Generally I prefer a slightly chunky neck. This isn't massive, it's not a baseball bat neck by any means, but there's a comfortable C profile to it. I think it's a slightly wider nut than my Fender acoustic, which is an entry level, all laminate, very cheap guitar. Fender no longer makes that guitar, I've had it for years. I think it's got a slightly wider nut on this, which again, personal preference. I personally like to have guitars that are all a bit different like that, but if you're someone who specifically wants a certain size, then that's something to bear in mind. I couldn't tell you what it is, but it's on the product pages for these. But yeah, that's a quick review that's become a bit longer. But all in all, I think certainly if you're able to get this at the promotional price that Guitars currently got it for, which is $299, I think you get a lot of guitar for that money. I really think at $299, I won't be sending it back. It's I think if it had been at the original price of $439 or thereabouts, I still think that's good value. I think that's a good guitar for the price, but it's a significant percentage difference from $399 to $439 that you have to think a bit harder about what you want. But I think if you're looking for a guitar in this price range, it's worth looking at this. Of course, it's dreadnought, so it's big. You need to bear that in mind if you're after a smaller guitar. So I have a PRS Parlor here, and just for size comparison, so this is the dreadnought, and this is the, just whack them all, this is the Parlor, so it's much smaller, and that's why this is my couch guitar, or I use this if I'm learning something and I don't want to be distracted by the size of the body. That's what I go to this for normally. But if you want a small guitar, this isn't it. This is a full body, full size dreadnought acoustic. But yeah, for the price, I think you get a lot of guitar for the price. It's a solid top, it's laminate back and sides, it's just got a beautiful aesthetic to it. So here's the pick guard for anyone who's not yet seen it. There is, as you can see, a Dove, and there's a really nice texture in the background here, like the red. It's just really nicely done. And then the bridge, as I said before, there's doves on it. It's quite a tall bridge too, if you can see that. It's electroacoustic, as I said. I've not plugged it in. I don't really use the electric components of acoustic guitars, so I couldn't tell you what that's like. But if that's what you're looking for, again, for the price, I think that's worth considering, that you can plug it in. Very impressed with the fit and finish on it. This doesn't need any work from a setup point of view. The frets don't need any work. The intonation's spot on. Just very impressed with that. There was one little mark on the top of the fretboard here. This might be where the smell's coming from. There's like it looks like a little bit of glue, and it just scratches right off. That's gone now. But other than that, there's no tool marks, there's no loose glue, there's nothing out of place, there's nothing there that shouldn't be there. So yeah, I have a very positive review of the Epiphone Dove, and as I said before, as long as you're not expecting it to be a Gibson Dove, I think that's the main consideration here. If you're expecting it to be a Gibson, if you want it to be just a cheaper version, you're going to be disappointed in it. If you judge it on its own merit, if you pick it up, play it, like it, it's a really good guitar.